Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Warrior. They don't pay us enough to think. And this was an okay episode. Again, my biggest issue with this is that I think that it should just mainly focus on the Tongs, because that is the strongest narrative core that we have. Toys things are just like, why are we looking at this? And Bill's whole thing, it just, they feel like distractions and add-ons. You ever get into a video game and you're like, I kind of just want to get to the main story, but you keep getting kind of like screwed over because you like have to go do this certain thing and this other activity isn't nearly as engaging or really has any kind of bearing whatsoever on the main storyline? That's kind of what we've got here. Now, granted, they can have repercussions, but it just doesn't feel strong enough to really. I would rather have more time devoted to the characters inside the Tongs and their inner workings and their fightings rather than we have a character who's a corrupt police official that's having hallucinations of a dude he killed. Granted, that's interesting, but it adds nothing to the main narrative that we've got. If that cop thing was the main narrative, that's a completely different matter. So, we do start this episode back off on we had ended with the Longzi and the Hopway getting ready to fight. Now, granted, this wasn't a knuckle drag out, like, really big fight, but we did get a nice big battle scene. We saw a lot of the Hopway people doing their thing, Assam being awesome, Young Jun being awesome. That's pretty much about it. We see that Penny is kind of woken up from what was occurring as she had pretty much drugged herself to let her husband have sex with her. And we see that she goes out, and we see that Mayor Blake and Buckley are talking about what had happened between the Longzi and the Hopway. Pretty much that 11 people were dead, 7 were Longzi, and 4 were Hopway, with more kind of wounded. So it's like, okay, this is getting into the political power structure. Of course, the senator sees this as his own kind of political opportunity to push his anti-Chinese agenda and starts using that for his campaign. Ooh, okay. I understand the ramifications and everything, but it's done and executed in such an uninteresting and just characterized manner that it's like, I don't care about you, Senator. You were just introduced a little bit ago, and I still don't care about you. I care about what's going on with Mai Ling and the rest of the people. So we see that, like, Lee's trying to do his own police work with Chow. Chow's not cooperating. Bill's seeing hallucinations of the guy that he killed. People are doing their own kind of stuff, but we kind of center around that Father June, like the Feng Hire brought up, but Father June and Young June are like talking about how they were attacked in their own territory and how that can't really stand, but Chow delivers the message that Lao Ting wants to have a meeting between the Longzi and the Hopway to kind of deal with this. It's like, okay, this should have been more important and brought up beforehand, because this Lao Ting character evidently is kind of an important peace broker or trying to keep everything held up together in this, and we haven't learned about them until now. And you would think that would be important with all the bad blood that's been going on between these two Tongs. Let's see. We get, of course, Blake having to try and pick a side. Leary's trying to figure out what's going on as well. Let's get Toy's stuff out of the way. She is evidently trying to be a real estate person, and her partner's like, hey, we're pretty much getting blackmailed. And she's like, all right, go and pay them. This, of course, goes into the effect that the partner goes to pay them, and they want to try and muscle her out. She comes in and kills both of them, and she's like, hey, I'm here to protect my partner. We're all good and everything. Of course, her partner kind of freaks out and is like, you just got to kill these people. This has gone completely crazy. He didn't mind doing it, but it's like, okay, I was kind of an intermediary and we were doing things legit. You've just murdered 2 people. I'm freaking the fuck out. interesting, and she's like, hey, I'll take care of my partner. And I believe that with Toy. She usually takes extreme measures when she kind of needs to, like in the case of the two Irish guys, but we'll kind of have to see how far that goes. We then also see that she goes back to the brothel at one point. We see that the girl that she bought is an accomplished swordswoman because she's like found her sword and was like messing around with it. That's about all we get. We also see during this that Penny breaks up with Assam because he didn't. Evidently, that in the last episode where she was like alone in the apartment drinking wine and all that, he was evidently supposed to show up, but he was of course dealing with what was going on in the town, and she's accusing him of being a criminal and all that kind of stuff, and that's pretty much their basis of breaking up. This devastates Assam, and he pretty much goes to drinking and acting like a douche. Toy pretty much smacks the crap out of him, be like, fucking get it together, you need to train to take on the champion, because we had seen at the meeting with Lao Ting that Father Jun and Mai Ling were brought together, and they were trying to figure out how to get this whole situation sorted out. Lao was like, hey, all right, let's make sure that there's not much bloodshed. You each pick a fighter. If the Hopway win, the treaty as it has been will be honored again. If the Longzi win, then they get to start shipping opium and all that. It's like, okay, yeah. Father Jun, of course, accepts this, and we see him throughout this episode trying to teach young Jun. He doesn't want to take any actions that lead to unnecessary bloodshed. Of course, young Jun is hot-blooded and ready to go after and do what he needs to do, but he doesn't have as much of a penchant for diplomacy, ironically enough, as Father Jun does. And they had orchestrated a fight between Assam and four masked people, which was actually pretty cool. And he asked them to be their representative. And this is just piling on about everything pretty much going on them at this point. And that's why he was drinking and acting like an asshole. But he, of course, gets his shit together and we're like, all right, fine. And Mai Ling tried to dissuade him from fighting because he had went outside, and he's like, screw that. I'm going to be fighting. I'm in a crappy situation, so whatever. You're afraid that I'll win, kind of thing. Like, okay. Let's see here. We also get stuff with Penny that she goes to this political party for the mayor, and we get some weird stuff as she's pretty much talking about comparing how they're talking about the Chinese to what we did to the Native Americans and all that, like trying to shut her up and all that. And then we also have Merriweather as a kind of weird dig at Trump that he had gotten like a loan from his father and all that. And it's just really weird scene. I understand that they're trying to get us into the time and all that, but again, it's not the most interesting parts to me. Then we start seeing Li Yong doing his training, and we start leading into other kind of things going on as well. We see that Leary meets up with Penny's father, and because Blake, after getting the booty that he wanted, even though he'd been getting booty from other sources as well, has decided to expedite the track, and that Leary and Mercer have decided to gather people to build the track. It's like, okay, cool. And we kind of start ending the episode where we see that they're doing. Father Jun starts playing this instrument. We see cuts of Assam training and Li Yong training, and it's pretty cool, but it's really weird cutting, and it's again thing that I have with shows with going with style over substance. It's like, okay, it would have been fine to have a montage of like cutting in and out of the different training stuff, but when you just see Father Jun playing an instrument out of nowhere, and granted, it's that music that's going on in the training montage stuff, it just kind of takes you out of it a little bit. Okay. And Li Yong's stuff of what he's doing was pretty freaking great. We then end the episode, and we see that the police have found the body of one of the people that Toy killed, and of course, Bill and Lee are brought into it. And Bill's having issues with the police department because he doesn't want to be used as a political tool for what's going on. If he fails in finding and stopping the violence, he'll be pretty much promoted to lieutenant and stuck there. Well, if he fails that, he's stuck there. If he succeeds in it, he's stuck there as a lieutenant. And, of course, there's no way out for him. It's like, all right, why? These things could be interesting and add more to the story, but I just feel that they kind of detract from it. I'm not trying to be like completely negative about it. I do like the certain things. I do like how this is wearing on Bill's conscience and everything, but that's not why I'm watching the show. I mean, it takes up more time that would be allowed to develop more of a coherent kind of narrative. It's really weird that when you see TV shows, everybody's like, oh, if you've got it linear or whatnot, you're being outdated and just kind of treating your audience stupidly. It's like, no, if you have a nice, tight narrative and everything works and adds to that narrative, rather than like being a off-branch side quest that really adds nothing to it, if you're not going to use it and use it effectively, why is it there? It's like saying you put a gun in the first scene and it's never used, or you give this certain bit of information and it's never used or never comes to any kind of fruition. So you got a prophecy that Awesome will unite the two factions and or bring blood and destruction everywhere, and nothing comes of it. It's like, oh, you did that in the third episode when you brought together a chicken and a goat. Subverting expectations. No. Keep a tight narrative. Make sure that any information that is relayed within the narrative advances it or adds something worthwhile to it. Otherwise, edit it out. So we'll kind of have to see where this goes. I am really interested to see how the fight between Lee Young and Ah Sung goes. That's probably going to be a really cool thing. So we'll have to see where this goes from here. I'm kind of losing interest in this season. I'm glad that it's been renewed for a second season, but a lot of it's leading to like nowhere things where I feel kind of bored watching it. And that's not just because I'm wanting just action set pieces. I want narrative that actually gets me interested and invested in what's going on. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.